this is Anna from Savvy Cat Realty, and today I'm here to talk to you about the visa options in Portugal in 2025. So for those of you who don't know, Savvy Cat Realty is a relocation and investment agency that helps expats move to Portugal from a lifestyle and sustainability perspective. We work with people who don't yet know exactly where they want to go and help them find the right neighborhood, location, and property in order for them to have a good new start in Portugal. And we also work from a buyer-only perspective, providing as much advice and due diligence in order to make sure our clients get what they want and know exactly what they are getting into. So if this makes sense for you, do feel free to reach to our website in www.savvycatrealty.com, where you can find all of the information about our services listed very transparently. So today's topic, visas 2025. There is not a lot of changes that happened since 2024, but there are still some things that are important to mention. I always start with the visas that are the most common to what I work with, and those would be the D7, D8, and Golden Visa. So I'm going to start by giving you a side-by-side comparison of the D7 and D8. They are both very similar visas. They are self-sustenance visa, which means that you just need to prove that you are able to sustain yourself. However, the requirements are slightly different. For the D7 visa, you need to have passive income comparable to the Portuguese minimum wage. The Portuguese minimum wage is currently 820 euros per month. It is also advisable to have about 10,000 in savings in a Portuguese bank account. This is not something that you cannot touch. So you just need to have that money there when you make the application, and then you can move it. It's just a reinforcement to the fact that you are able to be self-sufficient. With the D8, it is very similar, the difference being that you have to be an active income earner. And that can be either a job or what we call self-employment, so freelance and so on. And in this case, you do have to have 4 times the Portuguese minimum income, which is at the moment for 820 euros as mentioned, which makes it 3,280 euros per month in order to be able to apply for a D8 visa. The D8 visa is also known as the digital nomad visa. This visa allows you to apply both for a short stay and a long stay. The temporary stay, you can apply anywhere between 4 months and 12 months. While if you go for a residence permit, it will give you 2 years that can then be renovated for a further 3 years. The same thing applies for the D7. The D7 is a long-term permit, so you get 2 years that then can be renewed for another 3 years, making a total of 5 years. Once you reach the 5 years, you can apply for citizenship, so you can get permanent residency in Portugal. And this is the case for all visas, not just the D7 and D8. In any visa after 5 years residing in Portugal, you will be able to ask for a residence permit in Portugal. In all kinds of visas, well, and both digital nomad and the retirement visa, because the D7 being a passive income visa, it can apply for shareholders, renters, landlords, not renters, landlords, retirement, and other types of passive income where you don't have to be actively working in order to get that income. And in both cases, you can apply for family reunification. Family reunification is when one member of the family group, and family group is generally spouses and directly dependent people. Directly dependents are children under 18 years of age or with significant deficiencies, with significant disabilities, or parents in the same case, over 60 or with significant disabilities. And when it comes to family reunification, it can only apply for legally married spouses. So unless you are legally married, your partner cannot apply for family reunification in order to join you. Do keep that in mind. It is also important to mention that Portugal is considered one of the best destinations in the world when it comes to digital nomads because of safety, climate, and amazing digital technologies. We have amazing internet and phone coverage in the whole country and provide very good amenities when it comes to co-working spaces, and like I said, very good working speeds when it comes to internet access. So it definitely has become a hub in that sense, being one of the most renowned locations, the island of Madeira, where you actually have a pretty hot climate all year round. So if this is something that you are considering, these are the two main visas when it comes to self-sustenance. And then you also have the mandatory documentation that you need to submit with both of these visas. It's very similar. You need to submit proof of your income and where it's coming from. So if it's retirement, you need to submit the paperwork from your country of origin proving this income. If it is landlord rental income, you need to provide bank statements that prove that you have been receiving that amount in a stable way for at least 6 months. And the same thing for most of the cases. When it comes to active income or freelance, you need to prove your relationship to your employer and also have permission for said employer to reside in a different country. They often undergo background checks on the company in order to make sure that it is stable. And once again, they generally request at least 6 months of a relationship and proof of stable income, sometimes it being acceptable 3. But it's generally better to consider 8. It's also important to keep in mind that once you reside in Portugal for 6 months, you are legally considered a tax residence. This is a fairly complex situation since tax residency depends a lot on double taxation agreements between countries. So if you are concerned about the taxation, do make sure that you consult with the tax specialist in order to understand where you will be taxed and how much you will be taxed. Because depending on this double taxation agreement, you may keep being taxed in your country of origin, or you may be taxed in Portugal depending on the rates that apply to your profession. It's also important to mention, and this is indeed a new thing for 2025, that there is currently a substitute of the NHR program that used to be a great tax benefit program for international residents that was replaced with a simpler program called the Ific Plus, where you get a 20% flat rate tax if you are within the following categories. So if it is a job as an executive or a director, scientists, engineers and designers, university professors, ICT specialists, and doctors. So these categories grant you a flat rate of 20%. If you want to apply and are already here, you have until March in order to submit documentation and get the tax reductions from 2024. If you are coming in 2024, you just have to apply for this program while you are here. And once again, this only applies once you have 6 months of residency in Portugal. The other visa that is fairly popular and used to be a lot more popular than it is now is the Golden Visa. The Golden Visa in Portugal still exists, it just no longer applies to property. So the Golden Visa investment options are at the moment 5. The lowest ones being the investment in arts and patrimony in Portugal and in charity work regarding social immigration matters. Both of these cases are non-refundable, and the minimum investment is 200,000. If you want an investment option where you actually get return on investment, you have the 500,000 minimum investment that applies to investment funds for Portuguese-owned companies with at least majority of Portuguese citizens, creation of at least 10 jobs in a new business, and research also based on a Portuguese-owned company. You also have the D2 visa, which is the the entrepreneurship visa. And the entrepreneurship visa, do keep in mind that you do need to submit a business plan when you submit the application. This business plan has to be approved and followed in order to keep your visa. And then you also have to have clients in Portugal. This is mandatory for the D2 visa, so do keep that in mind. The rest of the things, they pretty much apply the same as the other visas. In all visas, you need to get a national background check, you need to get a bank account, a NIF number, travel health insurance for at least 6 months, all of your ID documentation, all of your matrimony and family documentation if you are applying as a family. And then you also need to submit, like I said, the income proof and so on. The golden visa, the difference between the golden visa and the other types of visas is that the other types of visas you apply through the embassy in your country of origin and wait for approval in said visa. You have to submit all of the documentation on these appointments, and in both the D7 and D8 you have to have proof of adequate accommodation too. The golden visa is very different because it is kind of works the other way around. So first you make the investment and then you apply for the visa. The biggest advantage of the golden visa is that you don't have a minimum stay requirement in Portugal, and you have a minimum stay requirement in Portugal, but that minimum stay is 14 days per year. And it still gives you access to all of the benefits and a residency permit to be in Portugal. So that is the big advantage of the golden visa. But like I said, it does work a bit differently. I also would like to keep in mind that the new Portuguese immigration service, which is called AIMA, so the new Portuguese immigration service that came to replace SAF, and SAF was already having a huge backlog on processes. We actually have currently a group 2 on golden visa owners that still haven't gotten their residency permits to stay in Portugal despite making their investments 2 and 3 years ago. And AIMA, being the new agency that supposedly was coming to make a better performance compared to the previous one, that is SAF, is unfortunately not having such a great performance with a satisfaction rate of 15% and over 17,000 complaints in the first 3 months. So one of the things you really do have to consider when you are applying for a visa in Portugal is that you probably will have to be very patient. Things will take a lot. So for the D7 and the D8, I would say that the minimum expected time would be 3 months. It's very rare for things to be faster. It has happened in the past. It mostly depends on the time you are able to set your appointment in the Portuguese embassy closer to you and also gather all the necessary documentation. The biggest headache is often getting the proof of adequate accommodation, in which you need either a contract of purchase of property or a rental contract. You also have the option of having someone vouch that they will house you, but that person has to prove that they have the conditions to house you. So they cannot have less space than people in the house. All of this to say, like I was saying, minimum 3 months, consider at least 3 months for your visa application, and it's very, very likely that it can go up to 6 months. So keep that in mind when you are undergoing the process. Well, the other visas that exist in Portugal that we rarely work with, but I would like to mention since this is a video about visas, is the D1, which is the work visa, which obviously means you have to have a working contract in Portugal in order to get this visa, and it's fairly straightforward. The big downside of working in Portugal, and I don't particularly recommend coming to Portugal without a job or a stable income, because the job market in Portugal is rather terrible when it comes to the amount you get paid versus the expenses you have. Portugal is a great country to live in if you have a foreign income. It's rather hard to get a good income working in Portugal though. So do keep that in mind. The next one would be the D3, since the D2 I already mentioned being the entrepreneur visa. So next one is the D3, which applies to highly qualified individuals, and it also once again applies to specific contracts and has some added benefits to the regular D1. Then you have the D4 and D5 that are student and volunteering visas, being the D5 specifically for European Union students. And then you have the D6, which is the family reunification visa. I am going to go into a bit of detail over this one, as we do often work with this one. One of the things I often recommend for international couples in which one of them has European citizenship and the other one doesn't, generally the best way to go around this is for the person who has the European citizenship to make use of their free circulation right in European Union and declare they are living in Portugal. It's a very simple process when it is European Union residents, and then apply for their spouse to come as in family reunification situation. This, once again, can take a while. The hardest things is often to get the actual appointment in the service. It was a huge headache with SAF. I think it's slightly better with IMA, but we shall see. I once again do not guarantee anything, and it's very likely that the process will take 3 or more months. So I do believe this basically covers everything you need to know about visas in Portugal in 2025. The only thing I would like to note is that I frequently get the question of, what if my visa does not get approved? I would like to mention this is very, very rare. Portugal has an approval rate of over 80% on applications. It's more likely that you will have problems with delays and things taking forever to get your residency permit and so on, than it is for your visa to be rejected. As long as you comply with the requirements of said visa and don't have anything major on your criminal record, minor things like DUIs that are a few years old and so on are generally not considered problematic. But like I said, very high approval rates and very unlikely that you will have an issue with this situation. But we are here to help. We do help recommending what you need and reviewing the documents if needed. If you are looking to come to Portugal, do consider our services. You can reach us directly in www.savvycatrealty.com or through email at contact.savvycatrealty.com. And we also release videos here every week on YouTube with new useful information for those of you who are looking to come to Portugal. Feel free to subscribe if you enjoy and find it useful. And we also have our blog and our website with a lot of helpful information for those of you in this process of moving to our new beautiful country. So I hope that you enjoyed this video and that it was helpful. Once again, if you have any queries, feel free to reach out to us. And I hope to see you all again next week.